It's been a minute since I've done this. Whoops. Fix this chair. Mm, Haven't live streamed in a minute. We'll see who joins before we get started. It's actually probably been like a year and a half or so since I last went live. If you're out there, throw something in the chat. It's a slow news day, so I figured I'd just hop on. Um, Answer any questions, just chat with you guys today. It's not really a slow news day, but the stories that could have been covered are kind of irrelevant. I feel like not irrelevant, but they're not really don't really need to over rotate on those. Like um Neo's NOP plus exceeded their mileage target. Um Xiaomi is gearing up for the launch of their EVs. A lot of people are afraid of Xiaomi actually. A lot of people think Xiaomi is going to be a pretty serious competitor when it comes to electric vehicles. So that remains to be seen. Obviously, I will cover Xiaomi um, probably a little bit more just because they seem to be in the same lane as Neo when it comes to um, creating peripherals or that can pretty much work well together with the car. Things like the Neo phone. Xiaomi is obviously a leader in the mobile phone industry, so they have a lot of the technology that can play a good part in um, making sure that their cars have the best technology as well. So we'll see what comes out of Xiaomi. Apple is there's been a lot of news about Apple releasing a car as well, so we'll keep an eye out for that. William Lee obviously said in that 140 question interview that it's going to take at least 3 years to determine whether, and I'm paraphrasing here, but whether the smartphone that they released under the Neo brand is a success or failure. And so I know there were a lot of critics of the smartphone basically saying that the smartphone should go away. It's too much of a strain on the little capital that Neo does have, and it's causing them to spread themselves thin. They need to focus on selling cars. Well, that put that entire idea of the smartphone going away to rest. William Lee is basically saying that the smartphone is here to stay for at least 3 years. That was one of the interesting tidbits that I took out of that interview. Keep up the vid. We appreciate the vids. The Xiaomi car looks good with the tech starting at 200,000 RMB, I think. Yeah, I definitely need to do some more research on it. I actually have some stuff about Xiaomi up right now. I was reading through a couple articles. For example, this one title of it, Xiaomi Auto Li Jun's Infinite Game. And the writer of this article is saying that it'll be a rival to Porsche and Tesla, creating a high-end luxury car as well in the automotive industry. So that'll be pretty interesting. We'll see what comes out of it. I know they definitely have the tech. And I feel like a lot of people think that I'm just like a neo guy, but it doesn't really matter to me. If there's another company that is doing good things, that's doing great things, I'll openly and freely speak on it. I have no problem doing that. Um, I'm not really a fan of Xpong, but I will say that Xpong is doing some good stuff with their technology, with their autonomous driving technology. Neo is doing really good stuff too. They're getting a lot of miles, a lot of user data. That is stuff that's going to be actionable for the company that can translate to a lot of business value down the road. So, good to hear that news that NLP Plus exceeded their target and they had coverage of over 320,000 kilometers. Mm-mm. We'll see who joins. I know when I used to live stream, it used to be a lot more lit than this. So we'll see who hops on. Want to have a little bit of a dialogue with you guys. Probably have a big news day tomorrow for Neo. Yeah, I saw that. The sub brand releasing in Q1 as well. That was some pretty exciting news to read. I honestly, the sub brand is a huge part of my bullish thesis for Neo. I think that that is when Neo is ultimately going to achieve scale, is when the Alps brand releases next year and they can actually start selling to more than just the luxury segment. And you got to understand that Neo with battery as a service, that is something that already makes Neo cars cheaper. The sub brand, if consumers are given the option to buy the car and lease the battery, and the sub brand's already priced a lot cheaper than Neo, which is the premium brand, then that's going to make them even more competitive and even more cheaper than their competitors. So there's a lot of good things that can happen for the Neo brand, or for Neo holistically, I'll say, because Alps, Neo, I consider them all the same thing when it comes to investing. From an investing standpoint, I'll say. I want Neo to come to the US. If Neo came to the US literally tomorrow, I promise you I would get a Neo. Um, but we'll see. I might. I'm not even opposed to getting a Tesla at this point. I do have a Alfa Romeo right now, and it's pretty much paid off. So my next car will definitely be fully electric. Putting premium gas in the tank every time is kind of painful. Time to practice what we preach over here, right? I can't remember the last time I live streamed. I'm pretty sure it was like 2 years ago. I agree. Starting luxury first was a smart move. They have to give Neo the brand a different look that way. I'm definitely getting a Neo, probably Alps brand. Yeah, we'll see. I would get an Alps brand too, if Alps came to the US. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think starting luxury for Neo was the best move because, like you said, it allows them to differentiate themselves from other competitors in the market. They're not just putting out a car that the masses can afford, like Xpeng or like Li Auto. They're actually saying, "Hey, if you're one of those people that like Porsches, here we are. If you're one of those people that like BMW, here we are. We are trying to take market share from them in the electric vehicle and shift you guys over to the electric vehicle market." And I think that's where Neo um, really shined. And in the beginning, they really started to differentiate themselves that way. The cars looked cool. They're a premium product. There are people who will only buy premium cars, believe it or not. If you start with a Lexus, and no offense to Ford or no offense to Chevy, you're most likely going to want to buy something that's still in that class of car. You might want a BMW, you might want a Range Rover. it's more common for that type of buyer to buy a premium product. And so Neo starting um, with that, and also starting with SUVs really allowed for them to differentiate themselves as well, because um, believe it or I think at the time they were the number one seller of pure electric SUVs in China. It wasn't Tesla. And there was a certain point where when I believe Tesla wasn't even selling, yeah, Tesla wasn't even selling the Model Y in China yet. They weren't selling the Model X in China yet. But NIO started with the ES6. And so Neo was able to differentiate themselves in that way, where others are attacking the mid-size to compact sedan market. Neo was pretty much the only quality, I'll say, electric vehicle player in China doing SUVs at a high level, and they were winning um, ratings on the JD Power year after year. So I think they went about it the right way. My lease is up at my apartment um in February, and so I have to figure out by tomorrow whether I'm staying or not and give them 60 days notice. Neo is a tech company. People don't see the full vision. Car, phone, chips, battery swap stations, and chargers, just to name a few of the things that they do. Definitely winning many awards. Strong buy. I have to agree with that myself. A lot of people often also forget that Neo fully owns XPT Motors. Neo is a manufacturer of motors. People forget that, and that is an award winning business in itself. So they're very well diversified, and there's Neo Capital that is diversified across many other businesses as well that relate to the automotive industry. So people never see the big picture till it's too late. The people who missed out on Tesla, um, I would say, failed to. They valued it as just a car company. The people who may or may not miss out on Neo might miss out because they value it as just a car company. But really, these are technology companies. It's all about the data. It's all about how many miles can we get to make our autonomous driving system better. How can we create our own? They just created their own chip for autonomous driving. Neo's pouring all of these dollars into R&D, and it's not like they're just lighting money on fire. People think that they're just lighting money on fire, but no. This is an industry where it's pretty cutthroat and you have to stay ahead of the curve. And in order to stay ahead of the curve, you have to be well informed and you have to be able to pivot very quickly. It's all about iterating. Just like a software company, it's all about version 1.0, version 1.5, version 2, version 2.5, version 3. There has to be all these different iterations that go on, and that's why Neo shifts battery swapping stations from battery swapping station version 1 to battery swapping station version 3 to battery swapping station version 4. And version 4 is obviously, and I skipped 2, but version 4 is obviously something that's going to save the company a lot of money when it comes to the power expenditure. It has solar panels in it. That's going to reduce their OpEx, their operational expenditure over the time. And so Neo is kind of also using their R&D dollars, money well spent, like you said, to reduce their operational costs. How can we be smarter? How can we be leaner? How can we be more efficient? These are all struggles that startups have. Of course, in the beginning, they're going to be burning through cash. Of course, in the beginning, it's going to look like the company's unsustainable. Growth companies have to keep on putting more and more and more money back into the business because their long termism is something that people bring up as a criticism of President and CEO William Lee all the time. But long termism is something that is a theme that's prevalent in any growth company. Neo's not purely a software company. They are a software company, but there's still tangible assets and things where they're going to be burning money. It's not, the margins aren't going to be as high as a software company until they reach scale. And so we're in the early days here. So it's going to be painful for a while, but eventually, like William Lee said, you plant the trees now so you can enjoy the shade later. And really, that's all it's about. 1 second, sending this text. You know, I even talked to some Tesla investors, some people who have made lots of profit off of Tesla, especially in 2020. And somebody said something that really stuck with me about Tesla, about investing in Tesla, actually. And really, what they said was it wasn't always easy being a Tesla investor. Right now, it's like, oh, you invested in Tesla back then? Great idea. You're a genius. But at the time, what you have to understand is it was hard to hold the bag for many, and people were getting ridiculed for even holding Tesla stock. So maybe there's some parallels with Neo. I don't know. I don't give financial advice, but we'll see how things shake up and we'll see how things play out. At the end of the day, the market will be the judge. And hopefully Neo can get to third a third of the point where Tesla is at today. Um, and that would be great. I want to hold more than 10 years. I want to see the partnership with Shell and other major gas companies starting to make their moves. I think Neo will take the same route as Tesla stock wise. That's the goal. And conservatively, even if we get to a third of where Tesla is, as far as the share price, that would be great for Neo. That would be great for investors. Neo shall get interesting. I agree. I agree. It'll be really interesting to see this company mature. It'll be really interesting to see what facets that they've diversified their business into work out. It'll be really interesting to see what facets that they've diversified their business into don't work out. Because, I'm not a betting man, but I don't think everything will work out, but I think that the things that matter will work out, and I hope that they are allocating resources, time, capital appropriately as they start to discover or uncover that you know what, this might not be the best business, and we're seeing that a little bit. We're seeing Neo exiting some projects that they planned on beginning, like the independent manufacturing, like that might get put on hold if it's not put on hold already. I forget, but I think I read something about that. Um, has the Chinese crackdown scared you away from Neo at all? Not really. If you go through the history of like my channel, like since the very first day, this very first Neo video that I posted, I've always been just kind of tuning out the noise. Um, and it's funny because it takes me back to a time in 2020 when there was all this talk of Neo's going to get delisted, like something has to happen by a certain day. I completely forget. And I continue to talk about Neo. I continue to buy Neo when I could. And Neo stock was one of the best performing stocks in the stock market in 2020. And at the time when I was posting the videos, someone was saying like, you're gonna lose all your money. Like this company is gonna get delisted. There's so much anti-China stuff right now because I think Luck and Coffee had cooked the books at that time. But I say all I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I say all that to say like it's never gotten to me. The fundamentals are strong. I think that the US and China are pretty codependent on each other, and decoupling would be a serious risk for both for and honestly, I don't want to get too political, but I think decoupling would be a serious risk for the US right now to decouple from China. So I'm not really worried about it at all. Once I build my position to the place where I want my position to be at, then I'll start buying other things. I mean, I do buy like ARK K like all the time as well, and that's actually performed pretty well for me. I have that in a retirement account. It's performed pretty well for me. So the Chinese crackdown, though, I do think that you know, all of this will blow over at all of the anti-Chinese rhetoric and everything flying around will blow over eventually, but we'll see. I think that it provides I actually look at it this is the way that I look at it. I look at it like Chinese stocks are pretty undervalued. They haven't ran up as much as US stocks over the past 5 years. And that is because of like I said, the anti-Chinese rhetoric that's floating around. So I look at it like it gives me an opportunity to buy these undervalued companies that have a lot of upside potential, in my opinion, just my opinion. I'm no expert. I don't give financial advice, but I have the opportunity to buy a company that is undervalued. So I'm kind of benefiting from that um, the crackdown that you're speaking of, if that makes sense. I'm really excited for the Alps brand next year, though. We'll see what comes out of that. I think the when the first model drops, it's definitely going to be a hit if they execute the right way. But I think there's a lot of potential there. So we'll see. What are your guys' thoughts on the Alps brand? I think the Alps brand is Neo's ace in the hole, really, because I think the problem, one of the problems that they're running into these days is they don't have a go to market for the mass market in terms of electric vehicles right now. They're cornered into their premium segment. This is going to open them up to a whole new consumer base, and it's going to allow them to reach scale. It's going to allow them to bring costs down because they're manufacturing at scale. It's going to allow them to increase margins, profitability. So Alps is really something that Neo's betting big on right now. If you can't tell already, they're putting a lot of mental stock into the Alps brand and it's succeeding. If the Alps brand doesn't succeed, that will be pretty, that won't be good for Neo at all. It won't be good for Neo at all. So there's definitely risk there. It's smart to acknowledge that. Well, anyways, guys, that was it for this stream. I just wanted to hop on and see what the streams are like. I haven't streamed in a while, but chat soon. Any final questions? I guess I'll leave at the 25-minute mark. We're at 24 minutes and 40 seconds. So if anyone has any questions or anything that they want to say, let me know and I can respond before I hop off. I'm going to play pickleball in a second. Go get some exercise, some fresh air. W stream. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'll see you guys. Take care.